Emma Carter stood before the towering building, trembling hands clutching divorce papers, 8 months pregnant and desperate for freedom. She thought one signature would finally sever her from Luca Moretti, the Mafia boss she'd fled in terror. But when he appeared unexpectedly, eyes locking onto her swollen belly, everything shattered. The secret she'd protected for months was exposed in a single glance. Now trapped between the man she feared and the child they created, Emma faced an impossible choice: run again and risk everything, or stay and confront the dangerous love she'd never truly escaped. Welcome to my story. Please watch until the end, hit like, and comment with the city you're watching from so I can see how far this story has traveled. Now, let's begin. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime that seemed too pleasant for what Emma was about to do. She stepped into the marble lobby of Moretti Tower, her worn sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. Every eye in the reception area turned toward her. Security guards in sharp suits, receptionists with perfect makeup, businessmen in $1,000 shoes. They all stared at the pregnant woman in a faded coat who clearly didn't belong. Emma kept her head down, one hand pressed against her lower back, the other gripping the manila envelope that held her future. 8 months pregnant, and she could barely walk straight anymore. Her feet were swollen, her back ached constantly, and every breath felt like work. But none of that mattered. Today was the day she'd sign the papers and disappear for good. The receptionist at the main desk looked up, her smile professional but cold. "Can I help you?" "I have an appointment," Emma said quietly, "with Marcus Webb. He's expecting me." The woman's eyes flickered to Emma's belly, then back to her face. "Name?" "Emma Carter." A pause. The receptionist's fingers froze over her keyboard. "Carter?" "Yes." The woman's expression changed, just barely, but Emma caught it. Fear. Recognition. She'd seen that look before, back when she was still Emma Moretti, back when being married to Luca meant people either worshipped you or ran from you. "One moment, please." The receptionist picked up the phone, turning slightly away. Her voice dropped to a whisper Emma couldn't quite hear. Emma shifted her weight, wincing as the baby kicked hard against her ribs. She'd been having Braxton Hicks contractions all morning. Nothing serious, just practice runs according to the free clinic doctor. Still, they made her nervous. She needed to get this done and get out. The longer she stayed in this building, the higher the risk. Marcus Webb was Luca's attorney, but he'd agreed to handle the divorce paperwork as a neutral party. It was the only way Luca would sign. He'd insisted on his lawyer managing the process. Emma had no choice but to agree. She had no money for her own attorney, no resources to fight. She just wanted it over. The receptionist hung up and turned back with a strained smile. "Mr. Webb will be down shortly. Please, have a seat." Emma lowered herself carefully into one of the leather chairs in the waiting area. The baby shifted again, pressing down on her bladder. She probably should have used the bathroom before coming up, but she just wanted to get through this. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Emma checked her phone, a cheap prepaid thing she'd bought with cash. No messages. She'd told no one where she was going today. Not her roommate Sarah, not the nurse at the clinic. Nobody. This meeting didn't exist. "Mrs. Moretti?" Emma's head snapped up. A man in his 50s stood before her, perfectly tailored suit, silver hair slicked back. Marcus Webb. She'd met him exactly once before, at her wedding. He'd been the one to hand Luca the marriage certificate. "It's Carter now," Emma said, struggling to stand. "Just Emma." Marcus didn't offer to help her up. "Of course, my apologies. Please, follow me." He led her to a private elevator, one that required a key card. They rode up in silence, Marcus checking his phone while Emma focused on breathing through another practice contraction. The elevator opened directly into a law office. Sleek, modern, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "This way." Marcus gestured toward a conference room. Emma followed, her heart pounding. Inside the glass-walled room sat a polished table with 2 chairs and a stack of papers. The divorce agreement. She could see it from here. Thick, official, the end of everything printed on expensive paper. "Please sit." Marcus pulled out a chair. Emma lowered herself down, exhaling with relief as the pressure on her back eased. Marcus sat across from her, folding his hands on the table. Before we begin, he said carefully, I need to ask, are you sure you want to proceed with this? Yes. Emma's voice was firm despite her shaking hands. I'm sure. Mr. Moretti has been very clear that he's willing to discuss. There's nothing to discuss, Emma interrupted. I want the divorce. That's why I'm here. Marcus studied her for a long moment. You understand that by signing these papers, you're forfeiting any claim to Mr. Moretti's assets, properties, or financial support? I don't want his money. The prenuptial agreement you signed does have certain provisions. I don't want anything from him, Emma said firmly. I just want to be free. Another pause. Marcus slid the papers across the table. I'll need to see your identification. Emma pulled out her driver's license, her old one, the one that still said Emma Moretti because she couldn't afford to get it changed yet. Marcus examined it, made a copy, then returned it. You'll need to initial each page and sign at the bottom of the final page, he explained, handing her a pen. Once you sign, the agreement goes into effect immediately. Mr. Moretti has already signed his portion. Emma's hand hovered over the first page. This was it. After this, Luca would have no legal claim to her. She'd be free to disappear, to raise her baby somewhere he'd never find them. She could finally stop running. She initiated the first page, then the second. Her hand moved mechanically through the stack, page after page of legal language that essentially said she wanted nothing, claimed nothing, asked for nothing. That was fine. She'd never wanted Luca's world anyway. She was halfway through when the conference room door opened. Emma didn't look up at first, assuming it was an assistant or another lawyer. But the air in the room changed, became heavier, charged with something dangerous. Marcus stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. Mr. Moretti, Marcus said, his voice tight. We weren't expecting you. Emma's pen froze on the page. No. He wasn't supposed to be here. Marcus had promised her Luca wouldn't be here. Slowly, she raised her head. Luca Moretti stood in the doorway, 6 feet of controlled power in a black suit that probably cost more than Emma's entire year of rent. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass, and those eyes, those cold, calculating gray eyes that had once looked at her with something like tenderness, now burned with an intensity that made her breath catch. But it wasn't anger she saw there. It was something worse. Shock. His gaze had dropped to her belly, and for the first time since Emma had known him, Luca looked completely, utterly thrown. Everyone out, Luca said quietly, his eyes never leaving Emma's stomach. Mr. Moretti, I don't think, Marcus began. Out, now! Marcus grabbed his briefcase and fled. The door clicked shut behind him, leaving Emma alone with the man she'd spent 8 months hiding from. The silence stretched between them like a blade. Luca moved slowly into the room, each step deliberate, controlled. He stopped at the edge of the table, his hands braced against the polished wood, still staring at her belly. How far along? His voice was dangerously soft. Emma's hand moved instinctively to her stomach, protective. That's none of your business. How far along? 8 months. The muscle in Luca's jaw tightened. She watched him doing the math in his head, counting backward to the last time they'd been together, to that final night before she ran. His knuckles went white against the table. You've been pregnant for 8 months, he said slowly, each word measured. And you didn't think to mention it. I didn't think you'd care. Luca's laugh was harsh, bitter. You didn't think I'd care that you're carrying my child? I don't know that it's yours. The lie fell flat between them. They both knew it was his. Emma had never been with anyone else, not before Luca, and certainly not after. But she needed him to doubt, needed him to question it long enough for her to finish signing those papers and disappear. Luca's eyes lifted to hers, and what she saw there made her blood run cold. Not anger, not even hurt. Something far more dangerous, possessiveness. Don't lie to me, Emma. He moved around the table slowly, a predator circling prey. We both know whose baby that is. Emma pushed herself to standing, using the table for support. It doesn't matter. I'm signing these papers and leaving. You'll never see me or this baby again. The hell I won't. You don't get a say in this. Emma's voice shook, but she held her ground. I left because you're dangerous, Luca. Because the life you lead, the things you do, I won't raise a child in that world. So you were just going to vanish? Luca was close now, too close. Emma could smell his cologne, could feel the heat radiating from him. Have my baby and let me think, what? That you'd left with someone else? That the child was another man's? I was going to let you forget I existed. I never forgot you existed, Emma. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. Not for a single goddamn day. Emma's breath hitched. She saw it then, just for a flash, the crack in his armor. The man who'd once held her like she was something precious, who'd whispered promises in the dark that she'd almost believed. But that man was a lie. The real Luca was the one who came home with blood on his hands, who made people disappear, who built an empire on fear and violence. I don't care, Emma said, forcing steel into her voice. I'm done with this conversation. I'm signing the papers and leaving. She turned back toward the table, reaching for the pen. Luca's hand shot out, gripping her wrist, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to stop her. Emma gasped, and that's when it happened. A sharp, sudden pain lanced through her abdomen, doubling her over. Not a practice contraction. Something different. Something wrong. Emma? Luca's voice changed instantly, the dangerous edge replaced by something that almost sounded like fear. What's wrong? Nothing, Emma gritted out, trying to straighten. Just a cramp. But even as she said it, another pain hit, stronger this time. Her hand flew to her belly and she felt it, the tightening, the wrongness. Too early. This was too early. You're in labor. It wasn't a question. No, I can't be. It's too soon. Emma's voice cracked with panic. I'm only 32 weeks. It's too soon. Luca was already pulling out his phone. I'm calling an ambulance. No! Emma grabbed his arm. No hospitals. I can't. They'll find me. Your enemies, they'll find me. Emma, you need a doctor. Not one of yours. Another contraction hit and Emma's knees buckled. Luca caught her, his arms going around her with a gentleness that contradicted everything she knew about him. I've got you, he murmured, lowering them both to the floor. I've got you. Just breathe. Emma wanted to push him away, wanted to tell him to leave her alone, but the pain was too intense and his arms were too steady, and she was so goddamn tired of being scared and alone. It hurts, she whispered. I know it does. Luca was already barking orders into his phone. Get Dr. Morrison to the tower immediately. Now. I don't care if he's in surgery, pull him out. 5th floor conference room. It's an emergency. Who's Dr. Morrison? Emma managed between breaths. The best OB in the state. He's on my payroll. Of course he is. Emma would have laughed if she weren't terrified. He's also completely discreet, Luca said, his hand moving in slow circles on her back. No one will know you're here. I promise. Emma wanted to argue, wanted to fight, but another contraction made the world go white. She felt Luca's arms tighten around her, felt him murmuring something she couldn't quite hear over the roaring in her ears. The door burst open and suddenly there were people. Marcus hovering in the doorway, a woman in scrubs rushing in with a medical bag, and behind them a man in his 60s with kind eyes and steady hands. Mr. Moretti, the doctor said calmly, kneeling beside them. I need you to step back so I can examine her. No. Emma's hand fisted in Luca's jacket. She didn't even realize she was holding on to him until she tried to let go and couldn't. Don't leave? Something flashed across Luca's face, surprise maybe, or relief. I'm not going anywhere, he said quietly. I'm right here. Dr. Morrison worked quickly, checking Emma's vitals, asking questions she barely heard. How far apart were the contractions? Had her water broken? Any bleeding? The world narrowed to the pain, and Luca's voice in her ear, steady and low, telling her to breathe, telling her she was doing fine, telling her lies that somehow made her feel safer. We need to get her to a hospital, Dr. Morrison said finally. She's in active preterm labor. The baby's coming, probably within the next few hours, and I need proper equipment. No hospitals, Emma said again, more desperately. Please, they'll find me. They'll... St. Catherine's, Luca interrupted. The private wing. You have privileges there, don't you, Doctor? I do. But then that's where we're going. Have the entire floor cleared. I want security on every entrance, every exit. No visitors, no press. No one gets near her without my explicit approval. Mr. Moretti, I can't just clear an entire floor. Yes, you can. Luca's voice was pure ice. Make it happen, now. Dr. Morrison looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Luca's expression made him nod instead. I'll make the calls. Emma felt herself being lifted, Luca scooping her up like she weighed nothing despite her pregnancy. She should protest, should demand he put her down, but her body was betraying her, clinging to him like he was the only solid thing in a collapsing world. I hate you, she whispered against his chest. I know, Luca said softly, carrying her toward the elevator. Hate me all you want, but I'm not letting you do this alone. The ride down was a blur of pain and fear. Emma lost track of time, lost track of everything except the steady thud of Luca's heartbeat against her ear and the contractions that were coming faster now, harder, too close together. Outside, a black SUV was waiting, engine running. Luca slid into the back seat with Emma still in his arms, barking orders to the driver. The city blurred past the tinted windows as they raced through traffic, sirens wailing somewhere behind them. Police escort, Emma realized dimly. Of course, Luca had a police escort. Stay with me, Emma, Luca was saying, his hand cupping her face. Stay with me. We're almost there. Too early, Emma gasped. The baby. It's too early. The baby's going to be fine. You're both going to be fine. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Luca's voice was absolutely certain, like he could command reality itself to bend to his will. You're going to be fine because I won't allow anything else. Do you hear me? Nothing is going to happen to either of you. Emma wanted to tell him he was delusional, that he couldn't control this, that there were some things even Luca Moretti's money and power couldn't fix. But then the worst contraction yet hit, and she was screaming, her nails digging into his arm hard enough to draw blood. The SUV screeched to a stop. Doors opened. Suddenly there were nurses and orderlies and a gurney, and Luca was setting her down gently, his hands lingering just a second too long. I'll be right behind you, he said. Mr. Moretti, you can't, a nurse began. I'm going with her. The tone brooked no argument. They wheeled Emma through pristine white corridors, through double doors into a private delivery suite that looked more like a luxury hotel room than a hospital. Dr. Morrison was already there, scrubbing in, issuing orders to his team. Emma was transferred to the bed, monitors hooked up, IV inserted. The contractions were relentless now, one bleeding into the next until she couldn't tell where one ended and another began. Emma, I need you to focus on me. Dr. Morrison was at the foot of the bed now. The baby's in distress. Heart rate is dropping. We need to do an emergency C-section. Terror shot through her, cold and sharp. No, I want to do it naturally. There's no time, the doctor said gently but firmly. Your baby needs to come out now, or we're going to lose her. Her. A girl. Emma was having a girl. I'm scared, Emma whispered, tears streaming down her face. A hand gripped hers, large, warm, steady. Luca, standing beside the bed in scrubs he must have thrown on in the hallway, his hair covered by a surgical cap that should have looked ridiculous, but somehow didn't. I'm here, he said simply, right here, and I'm not going anywhere. The surgical team moved with swift efficiency. Emma felt the prick of the epidural, the strange numbness spreading through her lower body. They draped a sheet across her chest, blocking her view of what was happening below, but she could see Luca's face, and that's what she focused on. Those gray eyes that had haunted her dreams for 8 months, now locked on hers with an intensity that made everything else fade away. Talk to me, Emma pleaded. Please, just talk to me. Luca's thumb stroked across her knuckles. You remember the first time we met? At the charity gala. You were wearing a green dress, emerald green. You were standing by the fountain, looking like you wanted to be anywhere else. Emma let out a shaky laugh despite everything. I did want to be anywhere else. I hated those events. I know, that's why I noticed you. Luca's voice was soft, almost tender. Everyone else was networking, schmoozing, trying to get my attention. But you were just standing there, looking at the stars like they were more interesting than any of us. They were. Probably. His lips curved into something that might have been a smile. I walked over and asked what constellation you were looking at. Do you remember what you said? I said I didn't know, that I'd failed astronomy in high school. You said you didn't need to know their names to find them beautiful. Luca's eyes never left hers. That's when I knew I was in trouble. Emma felt pressure, heard the doctor saying something about the incision, but it all seemed distant, unimportant compared to the man holding her hand. You asked me to dance, she whispered. You said no. You asked again, and you said yes. Luca's voice roughened. You said yes, and we danced until they turned the lights on, and I knew right then that I was never going to let you go. But you did. The words slipped out before Emma could stop them. You let me go. No. Luca shook his head. You ran. There's a difference. Because you gave me no choice. I know. Something cracked in his voice. I know I did this. I know I drove you away. But Emma, I swear. Almost there, Dr. Morrison called out. Just a few more seconds. Emma gripped Luca's hand harder, suddenly terrified. What if something's wrong? What if she's not okay? She's going to be perfect, Luca said with absolute conviction, just like her mother. And then, a sound. Small, angry, impossibly alive. A baby crying. Emma's breath caught. Is she... She's here, Dr. Morrison said, and Emma could hear the smile in his voice. She's small, but she's breathing on her own. She's a fighter. They brought her around the curtain, a tiny, wrinkled, perfect creature with a shock of dark hair and lungs that could wake the dead. Emma's daughter, her baby girl. She's beautiful, Emma sobbed, reaching out with trembling hands. The nurse placed the baby against Emma's chest for just a moment, warm and real and alive, before whisking her away to the warming table for assessment. Emma watched, her heart pulled in two directions, wanting to hold on to her forever and trusting these strangers to make sure she was okay. Luca stood frozen beside her, staring at the baby like he'd never seen anything like her before. Maybe he hadn't. This man who commanded empires and inspired fear, rendered speechless by 7 pounds of infant. You can go to her, Emma said softly. I'm okay. Go be with her. Luca looked between Emma and the baby, clearly torn. I don't want to leave you. I'm not going anywhere. Emma managed a weak smile. I'm literally being stitched back together. I couldn't run if I wanted to. Something flickered in Luca's eyes, pain maybe, or regret, but he nodded and moved toward the warming table where the nurses were examining the baby. Emma watched him go, watched him stand there as the nurse explained what she was doing, watched the exact moment he reached out and let their daughter wrap her tiny fist around his finger, and she watched his face transform. The hard lines softened, the cold, calculating expression melted into something Emma had never seen on Luca Moretti, pure, unconditional, terrifying love. The kind of love that would burn the world down to keep one person safe. The kind of love Emma had always feared he was capable of, because she knew what Luca did to protect the things he loved. He loved this baby, their daughter, and there was no running from that. Dr. Morrison finished the surgery, explaining post-op care and recovery times that Emma barely heard. The nurse brought the baby back, swaddled in a pink blanket, and placed her in Emma's arms properly this time. She was so small, so impossibly, terrifyingly small. But she was breathing, her tiny chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm, her eyes scrunched closed against the bright lights. Hi, baby girl, Emma whispered, tears streaming down her face. I'm your mama. I've been waiting to meet you. Luca moved back to Emma's side, and for a moment they just stood there. Or rather, he stood while she lay there, both of them staring at the miracle they'd created. We need a name, Luca said quietly. Emma hadn't let herself think about names. Naming her meant making it real, meant acknowledging this pregnancy as something permanent rather than a problem to solve. But now, looking at this perfect little face, she couldn't imagine not naming her. Sophia, Emma heard herself say. Her name is Sophia. Sophia. Luca tested the name and something in his expression shifted. It means wisdom. I know. It's perfect. He reached out slowly, giving Emma time to pull away if she wanted. When she didn't, his finger traced along the baby's cheek with a gentleness that broke something in Emma's chest. Sophia Moretti. Carter, Emma corrected automatically. Sophia Carter. Luca's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. Not then. But Emma saw the promise in his eyes. This conversation wasn't over. The surgical team cleared out, leaving them in the private recovery room. Sophia had been checked, declared small but healthy, and was now sleeping peacefully in Emma's arms. Doctor, Morrison had explained she'd need to stay for monitoring. Premature babies were unpredictable, but for now, she was stable. Emma should have been exhausted. She'd just had major surgery, should have been barely conscious, but adrenaline was keeping her awake, that and the need to keep watching Sophia breathe, to make sure this was real. Luca had pulled a chair next to the bed and hadn't moved since, his eyes fixed on the baby. You should go, Emma said finally. You have businesses to run. People to… No. Luca, I'm not leaving you. He looked at her then, and the expression on his face was something Emma couldn't quite name. Not again. Never again. You can't just… Watch me. They sat in silence for a while, the only sound Sophia's soft breathing and the steady beep of monitors. I looked for you, Luca said suddenly. After you left. I had people searching everywhere, private investigators, contacts in every major city. I thought maybe you'd gone back to your hometown or to your college friends, or I didn't go anywhere you'd think to look, Emma interrupted. No, you didn't. Luca's voice was quiet. You disappeared completely. Changed your name, paid for everything in cash, never used your credit cards or social media. It was like you'd ceased to exist. That was the idea. Why? Luca leaned forward. Tell me why. What did I do that was so terrible you had to erase yourself? Emma stared at him, incredulous. You really don't know? Enlighten me. The night I left, you came home covered in blood. Emma's voice shook. Not a little blood, not an accident. You were drenched in it, and when I asked what happened, you looked at me like I was stupid for even asking, like it was normal, like I should just accept that my husband regularly comes home looking like he walked out of a slaughterhouse. Luca's expression went carefully blank. I told you what I was when we got married. You told me you ran businesses. You said some of them were questionable, but you didn't want to know the details, Luca finished. You wanted the nice house and the nice life and the nice lie that I was just a businessman with dubious ethics. That's not fair. Isn't it? Luca stood pacing to the window. You married me knowing I wasn't clean, Emma. You just didn't want to see exactly how dirty I was. I was 23 years old. Emma's voice rose, then immediately dropped when Sophia stirred. She continued more quietly. I was 23 and naive, and I thought love would be enough. I thought you'd choose me over that world. I was wrong. Luca turned back, his eyes hard. I never lied to you about who I was. No, you just let me believe what I wanted to believe. Emma looked down at Sophia, sleeping peacefully despite the storm brewing around her, until I couldn't anymore. So you ran. I survived. The words hung between them, heavy with accusation. Luca returned to his chair, but the easy silence from before was gone, replaced by tension thick enough to choke on. I can't change what I am, he said finally. I can't erase the things I've done or the life I've built. But Emma… He stopped, seeming to struggle for words. When I saw you today, saw you pregnant, saw what you'd been hiding from me, I wanted to tear this entire building apart. I was so angry I couldn't see straight. Emma's heart hammered. This was the Luca she'd feared, the one who destroyed anything that threatened his control. But then you collapsed, he continued, his voice dropping, and all that anger just vanished. All I could think was that I'd spent 8 months not knowing you were pregnant, not knowing you were in danger, not being there to protect you. And if something happened to you or the baby… His hands clenched into fists. I couldn't breathe, Emma. For the first time in my life, I couldn't breathe. Emma didn't know what to say to that. I know I don't deserve another chance, Luca said quietly. I know I failed you, but I'm asking anyway. Let me protect you, both of you. Let me make sure you're safe. Safe from what? Your world? Your enemies? Emma shook her head. The only way to keep Sophia safe from that is to keep her away from you. Do you really believe that? Luca's voice was gentle but relentless. Emma, the moment you walked into this building, the moment my people saw you pregnant, word started spreading. My enemies already know about her. Running won't change that. Ice flooded Emma's veins. You're lying. I wish I was. Luca pulled out his phone, brought up a message, and showed it to her. Emma's stomach dropped as she read. A text from someone named Victor, 3 words that made her blood run cold. Heard about the baby. Who is Victor? Emma whispered. Someone who would very much like to see me suffer. Luca took the phone back. And now he knows the best way to make that happen. Emma looked down at Sophia, sleeping so peacefully, completely unaware that she'd just been born into a war zone. What have I done? Nothing. This is on me. Luca's voice was rough. All of it. But Emma, please, let me fix it. Let me keep you safe. How? By putting us in some safe house, surrounding us with guards? That's not a life. That's a prison. It's temporary. Until when? Luca was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, harder, more certain. Until I eliminate the threats. Emma's blood went cold. She knew what that meant. She knew exactly what Luca was offering to do. No, she said firmly. I won't let you kill people for us. They're already dead, Luca said flatly. They just don't know it yet. The moment they decided to use my family against me, they signed their own death warrants. Luca, this isn't negotiable, Emma. He leaned forward, and she saw something frightening in his eyes, absolute conviction. I will burn down anyone who threatens you or Sophia. Anyone. And I won't lose a single night's sleep over it. This was the man she'd run from. This was the dangerous, terrifying reality of Luca Moretti, someone who could order executions as casually as ordering coffee, who saw violence as a tool rather than a last resort. But he was also the man who'd held her hand through surgery, who'd looked at their daughter with reverence, who'd spent 8 months searching for her even though she'd destroyed him. Emma didn't know which version of him scared her more. Sophia made a small noise, her face scrunching up. Emma adjusted her hold, swaying gently until the baby settled again. I need to think, Emma said finally, about all of this. But right now, I'm exhausted and I just had surgery and I just need some time. Luca nodded slowly. Of course, I'll give you space. He stood but hesitated at the door. Emma? Yeah? Thank you. For keeping her safe, for getting through this pregnancy alone, for... His voice caught. For bringing her into the world. I know I don't deserve either of you, but I'm grateful anyway. Then he was gone, leaving Emma alone with Sophia and 1,000 impossible decisions. A nurse came in shortly after, checking Emma's vitals and explaining how to nurse. Sophia latched on after a few tries, her tiny mouth working instinctively. Emma stroked her daughter's dark hair, so much like Luca's, and felt her heart break and heal simultaneously. She'd spent 8 months planning to disappear with this baby, to raise her somewhere safe and quiet, where Luca's shadow couldn't reach. But Luca was right. The moment she'd walked into that building, everything changed. There was no running now. No hiding. The only question was whether she'd face what came next alone, or whether she'd let the monster back into her life to protect them from other monsters. Emma looked down at Sophia, who'd fallen asleep mid-feeding, milk-drunk and peaceful. I don't know what to do, Emma whispered to her daughter. I don't know how to keep you safe. But even as she said it, she knew the truth. Even as there was only one person who could protect Sophia from the danger Emma had inadvertently exposed her to, and he was the same person Emma had spent 8 months running from. Outside the door, she could hear voices, Luca issuing orders, arranging security, making calls, taking control of the situation like he took control of everything. Emma closed her eyes and tried not to think about what tomorrow would bring. tried not to think about the impossible choice she'd have to make. But she couldn't stop thinking about what Luca had said. They're already dead. They just don't know it yet. And she couldn't stop wondering if, by trying to save her daughter from Luca's world, she'd instead dragged them both into something far worse. Sophia woke Emma 3 times during the night, her small cries piercing through the haze of pain medication and exhaustion. Each time, Emma struggled to sit up, wincing at the surgical incision, her body screaming that she'd just been cut open and shouldn't be moving. But Sophia needed her, so she moved anyway, cradling her daughter close and trying to remember everything the nurse had explained about latching and positioning. The 3rd time, around 4 in the morning, Emma was fumbling with the blanket, trying to get Sophia positioned right while fighting back tears of frustration and pain when the door opened softly. Luca stepped in, still wearing the same clothes from yesterday, his hair disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it. He looked exhausted, older somehow, but his eyes went immediately to Sophia. "You should be sleeping," Emma said, her voice rough. "So should you." Luca moved closer, keeping his voice low. "Let me help." "I've got it." "Emma, you can barely sit up. Just let me hold her while you get comfortable." Emma wanted to refuse on principle, but another sharp pain from the incision made the decision for her. She nodded, and Luca carefully lifted Sophia from her arms. The baby fussed for a moment, then settled against his chest, her tiny fist curling into his shirt. Luca stood there, swaying slightly, one hand supporting Sophia's head with a carefulness that seemed impossible for someone who'd probably ordered someone's death just hours ago. Emma adjusted the pillows behind her, trying to find a position that didn't make her feel like her insides were falling out. "Okay," she said finally. "I'm ready." Luca transferred Sophia back, and this time Emma managed to get her latched without too much trouble. They sat in silence, the only sound Sophia's small noises and the ever-present beep of the monitors. "You stayed," Emma said quietly. "I told you I would." "I thought you meant for a few hours. Not all night." Luca sank into the chair beside the bed, exhaustion written across his features. "I meant what I said, Emma. I'm not leaving." "You can't just stop your entire life because—" "Yes, I can." His voice was firm. "I have people handling things. I'm staying right here." Emma wanted to argue, but she was too tired. And truthfully, some small, traitorous part of her was glad he was there. The hospital was quiet and sterile and strange, and every time Sophia cried, Emma panicked, certain something was wrong. Having Luca there, steady and calm, helped more than she wanted to admit. Sophia fell asleep mid-feeding again, milk dribbling down her chin. Emma wiped it gently, then tried to figure out how to lay her down in the bassinet without waking her. Her incision protested every movement. "Here." Luca stood, taking Sophia with the same careful gentleness. He laid her in the bassinet, adjusting the blanket around her with surprising competence. "You need to rest." "I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I think about—" Emma stopped, not wanting to finish that sentence. "About what?" "About the text you showed me. About the people who know about her now." Emma's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "About what they might do." Luca's expression hardened. "They won't get near her. I've tripled security on this floor. There are guards at every entrance, cameras in every hallway. No one gets in or out without clearance." "For how long? A week? A month? What happens when we leave the hospital?" "I have a place prepared. Secure. Isolated. You'll both be safe there." Emma's stomach twisted. "A safe house." "A home," Luca corrected. "With everything you'll need, medical equipment, a nursery, staff to help, guards to keep us prisoner, to keep you alive." Luca's voice was sharp. "Emma, I know you hate this. I know you want to pretend you can just go back to your apartment and raise Sophia like none of this is happening. But that's not reality anymore. Victor isn't the only one who knows about her. Word is spreading, and every hour you spend unprotected is an hour someone could use against us." "Against you," Emma corrected bitterly. "We're leverage. That's all we are to them." "That's all they see." Luca leaned forward, his eyes intense. "But to me, you're everything, both of you. And I will do whatever it takes to keep you safe, even if you hate me for it." Emma looked away, unable to hold his gaze. "I don't know if I can do this." live like that. Always looking over my shoulder, always afraid. You've been doing it for 8 months already. The truth of that statement hit hard. Emma had spent 8 months in a constant state of low-level terror, jumping at every unexpected knock, paying for everything in cash, never staying in one place too long. She'd told herself it was freedom, but it had been its own kind of prison. At least then I was running from one person, Emma said. Now you're telling me there's a whole list of people who want to hurt us. And I'm going to eliminate every single one of them. There it was again, that casual certainty about violence. Emma's hands trembled as she pulled the blanket higher. How many people have you killed, Luca? The question hung in the air between them. Luca didn't flinch, didn't look away. Do you really want to know? Yes. Directly? 3. His voice was flat, emotionless. Indirectly? I've lost count. Emma felt sick. How can you say that like it's nothing? Because it is nothing. They were threats. I eliminated them. That's how my world works. That's insane. That's survival. Luca stood pacing to the window. You want to judge me for it? Fine. Judge me. Hate me. But don't pretend the world is something it's not. There are people out there who would torture you to get to me, who would take Sophia and raise her as their own just to watch me suffer, who would... He stopped, his jaw clenching. I won't let that happen. Whatever it takes. Emma stared at him, at the rigid line of his shoulders, and saw something she hadn't expected. Fear. Luca Moretti, the man who commanded an empire built on violence, was terrified. You love her, Emma said softly. You've known her for less than a day, and you already love her. Luca turned back, and the raw emotion on his face nearly broke her. From the moment I saw her, from before that, from the moment I realized she existed, I loved her. And I love you, Emma. I never stopped. Don't. Emma's voice cracked. Don't say that. Why not? It's true. Because it doesn't change anything. Emma felt tears burning behind her eyes. You love us, great. That doesn't make you safe. That doesn't make this life safe. Love doesn't fix the fact that you're a criminal, Luca. That people want you dead. That being near you puts a target on our backs. I know. Luca moved back to the bedside, dropping to his knees so they were eye level. I know what I am. I know what I've done. But Emma, I'm begging you, give me a chance to make this right. Let me protect you while I dismantle the threats. And then what? Luca took a shaky breath. And then I'll walk away. From all of it. The business, the empire, everything. I'll give it up and we can go somewhere safe, somewhere normal. I'll be whoever you need me to be. Emma stared at him, shocked. You're lying. I'm not. You can't just walk away from that world. They'll kill you. Let them try. Luca's voice was fierce. I've built something that can run without me. I have people in place, systems established. It'll take time to transition everything, to make sure there's no power vacuum that puts you at risk. But I can do it. I will do it. For you, for Sophia. Emma wanted to believe him. Every fiber of her being wanted to believe that Luca could change, that he could leave that darkness behind and become the man she'd once thought he was. But she'd been burned before. How do I know you mean it? She whispered. How do I know this isn't just another promise you'll break? You don't. Luca's honesty was brutal. You have to trust me, and I know I haven't given you any reason to. But Emma, I'm asking anyway. Trust me, just long enough to let me prove I can do this. Before Emma could respond, Sophia began to cry, a sharp, distressed sound that sent both of them into immediate action. Emma tried to sit up and gasped in pain. Luca was already at the bassinet, lifting Sophia carefully. She's warm, he said, concern flooding his voice. Too warm. Emma's heart dropped. Get the nurse. Luca was already pressing the call button, then cradling Sophia against his chest, murmuring soft reassurances. The nurse came in seconds later, took one look at Sophia, and immediately called for Dr. Morrison. The next hour was a blur of tests and monitors and medical jargon Emma barely understood. Sophia's temperature had spiked, not dangerously high, but concerning for a premature newborn. They ran blood work, checking for infection, checking for complications from the early delivery. Emma sat in the bed, feeling utterly helpless, watching through the window as they worked on Sophia in the nursery. Luca stood beside her, his hand gripping hers so tightly it almost hurt, but she didn't pull away. She needed something to hold on to. "She's going to be okay," Luca kept saying, like a mantra. "She's going to be okay." Emma wanted to believe him, but she'd learned the hard way that wanting something didn't make it true. Dr. Morrison finally emerged, looking tired but not panicked. That had to be a good sign. "It's an infection," he explained, "but we caught it early. We've started her on antibiotics and she's responding well. Her temperature is already coming down." "Can I see her?" Emma asked immediately. "Soon. We want to keep her in the nursery for monitoring, but she's stable. You did the right thing calling us immediately." After the doctor left, Emma finally let herself cry. Great heaving sobs that made her incision scream in protest, but she couldn't stop. All the fear and exhaustion and overwhelming terror of the past 24 hours came pouring out. Luca pulled her against his chest, careful of her surgery, and just let her fall apart. He didn't try to stop her tears or tell her everything would be fine. He just held her, one hand stroking her hair, murmuring soft words in Italian that she didn't understand but found comforting anyway. "I can't do this," Emma sobbed against his shirt. "I can't. What if something worse happens? What if I can't protect her?" "You're not doing this alone," Luca said firmly. "I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." Emma pulled back, wiping her eyes. "You promise? You promise you won't disappear into your work and leave me to handle everything like—" She stopped. But they both knew what she'd been about to say, like before. "I promise." Luca cupped her face in his hands. "Emma, I swear on Sophia's life, I will be here. Every day. Every night. Whatever you need." "I need her to be okay," Emma whispered. "She will be. She's strong, like her mother." They let Emma see Sophia an hour later, once the baby's temperature had stabilized. Emma stood by the incubator watching her daughter sleep, so small and fragile with wires and monitors attached to her tiny body. "Hey, baby girl," Emma whispered, reaching through the opening to touch Sophia's hand. "You scared me. Don't do that again, okay?" Sophia's fingers wrapped around Emma's thumb, that instinctive newborn grip that felt like a promise. "She's a fighter," Luca said from beside her. "She has to be." Emma's voice was hollow. "Look at the world she was born into." "That world is going to change. Luca's tone was absolute. "I'm making calls today, starting the process." "What process?" "Transitioning out of the family business. It's complicated, but I have people who can take over the legitimate operations. The less legitimate ones." He paused. "I'm shutting them down." Emma turned to stare at him. "Just like that?" "Just like that." "Luca, that's your entire empire, and it means nothing compared to you and Sophia." Luca looked at their daughter, sleeping peacefully despite everything. "I built that empire because I thought power would keep me safe, keep the people I cared about safe. But all it did was paint targets on our backs, so I'm tearing it down. Your enemies won't just let you walk away." "No," Luca agreed. "They won't, which is why I have to be smart about it, calculated. Make sure the transition doesn't create chaos that could be used against us." "How long will that take?" "Months? Maybe a year?" Luca's jaw tightened. "But I'm starting today. I've already made some calls. My second in command, Marco, he's solid, loyal. He'll handle the day-to-day while I set up the framework for a complete handover." Emma wanted to argue, wanted to point out all the ways this could go wrong. But looking at Luca's face, she saw something that stopped her. Determination. Real, genuine commitment to change. Maybe he really meant it this time. They returned to Emma's room after the nurses assured them Sophia was stable and sleeping peacefully. Emma was exhausted, her body aching from the surgery and the emotional toll of the past day. She lowered herself carefully onto the bed while Luca dimmed the lights. "You should sleep," he said. "So should you." "I will, eventually." Luca settled into the chair, pulling out his phone. "I have some things to handle first." Emma watched him work, saw the way his expression hardened as he read messages, the tension in his shoulders as he typed responses. This was Luca in his element, managing an empire from a hospital room. It should have scared her. Part of her expected it to scare her, but instead she found herself thinking about what he'd said, about dismantling it all, about choosing them over power. Luca? He looked up immediately. What do you need? If you really do this, if you really walk away from everything, what will you do? Luca considered the question carefully. I don't know. Something normal, something that doesn't require violence or fear to maintain. A slight smile crossed his face. Maybe I'll become boring. You could never be boring. Is that a compliment? Don't let it go to your head. But Emma found herself almost smiling too. The moment was interrupted by a knock at the door. Luca was on his feet instantly, his body language shifting to something dangerous. Emma's brief moment of comfort evaporated. It's okay, a voice called from outside. It's just me. Marco. Luca relaxed fractionally and opened the door. A man in his 40s stepped in. Well-dressed, professional, with the kind of eyes that missed nothing. He glanced at Emma briefly, nodded respectfully, then focused on Luca. We need to talk, Marco said quietly. About Victor. Luca glanced at Emma, clearly torn between hearing this information and protecting her from it. Just tell me, Emma said tiredly. Whatever it is, I'd rather know. Luca nodded at Marco, who pulled out a tablet and showed them a series of photographs. Emma's stomach turned as she recognized herself in several of them, leaving her apartment, walking to the clinic, entering the hospital yesterday. He's been watching her, Marco said flatly. For weeks, maybe longer. We don't know how he found her, but he's got eyes on her routine, her location, everything. How is that possible? Emma's voice shook. I was careful. I never used my real name. He has resources. Luca interrupted, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. And apparently he's been using them. There's more. Marco swiped to another photo, and Emma felt the blood drain from her face. It was a picture of the hospital, taken from outside with a timestamp from just 3 hours ago. And in the corner of the image, barely visible, was a man with a camera. They're watching the hospital, Emma whispered. Right now. We're handling it, Marco assured her. Increased security, counter surveillance, everything, but boss, he turned to Luca. Victor's making moves. He's reaching out to your competitors, trying to form alliances. He's positioning this as an opportunity to take you down while you're distracted. Luca's expression went cold, dangerous. Emma recognized that look, had seen it the night she ran. This was Luca Moretti, the crime boss, not Luca Moretti, the father. Let him try, Luca said softly. He just made this personal. What are you going to do? Emma asked, though part of her didn't want to know. Luca looked at her, and something in his eyes made her shiver. What I should have done months ago. I'm going to end this, permanently. You mean kill him. I mean eliminate the threat. Luca's voice was ice. Victor knew the rules. He came after my family. That's a death sentence in our world. Emma felt sick. And if killing him just makes things worse? If it triggers some kind of war? Then I'll win that war too. Luca turned to Marco. Set up a meeting, neutral ground. I want to talk to everyone who's been in contact with Victor. Make it clear that anyone who stands with him stands against me. Boss, are you sure? Going on the offensive right now with Emma and the baby is exactly why I need to do this now, Luca interrupted. Every day I wait is another day they see me as weak, as vulnerable. I need to remind them who I am. Marco nodded slowly. I'll make the arrangements. After Marco left, silence filled the room. Emma stared at Luca, trying to reconcile the man who'd held their daughter so gently with the man who'd just ordered what amounted to a declaration of war. You said you were going to change, Emma said quietly, that you were going to walk away from all this. I am, but I have to secure our safety first. Luca moved closer, his expression softening slightly. Emma, I can't just announce I'm retiring and expect everyone to respect that. I need to show strength. Make it clear that leaving is my choice, not weakness they can exploit. By killing people. By neutralizing threats. Luca's voice was gentle but firm. I know this isn't what you want to hear. I know it's ugly and violent and everything you hate about my world, But it's necessary. And once it's done, once Victor and anyone else who might use you against me is gone, then I can start dismantling the Empire, but not before. Emma wanted to argue, wanted to tell him there had to be another way. But she was so tired, and her incision hurt, and Sophia was fighting an infection in the nursery, and she just didn't have the energy for this fight. How long? She asked instead. How long what? How long until it's done? Until we're safe? Luca hesitated. I don't know. Weeks. Maybe a month? I'll move as fast as I can. And where will we be while you're doing this? The safe house I mentioned. It's outside the city. Completely secure. You'll have everything you need. Medical staff for Sophia. Anything you want for yourself. You'll be comfortable. Comfortable? Emma laughed bitterly. You mean trapped? Protected, Luca corrected. Emma, please. I know it's not ideal, but it's temporary, just until I can ensure no one will come after you. Emma closed her eyes, trying to think through the exhaustion and pain. She could refuse, could demand he let her go, insist on her independence. But then what? Victor was already watching her. Others would follow, and she'd be alone, trying to protect a premature newborn while running from people with infinite resources. Or she could accept Luca's help, live in his safe house, under his protection, while he did whatever he had to do to make them safe. It meant depending on him, trusting him. Two things she'd sworn never to do again. But when she opened her eyes and saw Luca looking at her with desperate hope, something in her chest cracked. Okay, she said quietly. Luca froze. Okay? I'll go to the safe house, let you protect us. But Luca... She met his eyes steadily. If you use this as an excuse to control me, if you try to make decisions for me or tell me what I can and can't do, I'm gone. Security risk or not, I'm gone. Understood? Understood. Relief flooded Luca's face. Thank you. Emma, thank you. I'll prove to you that you can trust me. I swear. Emma wanted to believe him, but trust was earned, not given, and Luca had a long way to go before she'd truly trust him again. Still, for Sophia's sake, she had to try. 3 days later, Emma sat in a wheelchair holding Sophia while a nurse pushed them toward the hospital's private exit. Dr. Morrison had cleared them both for discharge that morning. Sophia's infection was gone, Emma's incision was healing well, and there was no medical reason to keep them longer. But Emma felt anything but ready to leave. The safe house felt like admitting defeat, like accepting that her life now belonged to Luca's world whether she wanted it or not. The car's waiting, Luca said, walking beside them. He'd barely left the hospital since Sophia was born, managing his empire from his phone and the occasional visit from Marco or other associates. Emma had watched him transform throughout those days, one moment tender and attentive with Sophia, the next cold and calculating as he issued orders that probably ended in violence. She was learning to recognize the shift, the way his jaw tightened when Marco called, the flat, emotionless tone he used when discussing problems that needed handling, the careful way he never discussed business in front of her unless forced to, like he thought hiding it made it less real. They emerged into gray afternoon light. A black SUV idled at the curb, identical to a dozen others parked nearby. Security, Emma realized? Luca wasn't taking chances. A woman in her 50s approached them, professional demeanor, kind eyes, wearing scrubs. Mrs. Moretti? I'm Helen. I'll be Sophia's primary nurse at the residence. It's Carter, Emma corrected automatically, even though she knew it was pointless. To Luca's world, she'd always be Mrs. Moretti. And thank you, but I can take care of my own daughter. Of course. Helen's smile didn't falter. I'm just here to help, especially at night, give you some rest. Premature babies can be unpredictable. Emma wanted to argue, but Luca was already opening the SUV door, and the nurse was taking the wheelchair, and suddenly she was being helped into the vehicle with Sophia strapped into a car seat that looked like it cost more than Emma's monthly rent used to. Luca slid in beside her. The driver pulled away from the curb smoothly, and Emma watched the hospital disappear behind them. Her last connection to the normal world, gone. How far is this place? Emma asked. About an hour outside the city. Luca's hand rested on Sophia's car seat, his thumb tracing the edge of the blanket tucked around her. Completely isolated, 30 acres of private land, no neighbors for miles. Sounds like a prison. Sounds like safety. Luca's voice was patient but firm. Emma, I know you hate this, but please, just give it a chance. Emma turned to look out the window, watching the city give way to suburbs, then to stretches of forest and open land. Sophia slept peacefully through the drive, oblivious to the fact that her life was already being shaped by forces beyond her control. When they finally turned off the main road, Emma sat up straighter. They passed through a security gate, actual guards with actual weapons, then drove down a long, tree-lined driveway. The house that emerged from the trees made Emma's breath catch. It wasn't a house. It was a damn estate. 3 stories of modern architecture, all glass and steel in clean lines, surrounded by manicured grounds that probably required a full-time staff to maintain. You said a safe house, Emma said faintly. This is a mansion. I wanted you to be comfortable. Luca, this is insane. I don't need... Yes, you do. Luca's voice was gentle. You need space for Sophia to grow. You need medical equipment nearby in case there's another emergency. You need staff to help because you just had surgery and you're still recovering. And you need somewhere that doesn't feel like a bunker, even if that's functionally what it is. The car stopped in front of massive double doors. More security emerged, discreet but obvious, armed but professional. Luca got out first, then came around to help Emma, while Helen carefully removed Sophia's car seat. Inside was even more overwhelming. The entryway alone was bigger than Emma's entire apartment had been. Modern furniture, expensive art, floor-to-ceiling windows that let in floods of natural light. It was beautiful and cold and absolutely terrifying. The nursery's upstairs, Helen said, already heading toward a sweeping staircase. We've set up everything Dr. Morrison recommended. Monitors, backup oxygen, the works. Emma followed, Luca close behind. The nursery made her want to cry. It was perfect. Soft gray walls, white furniture, a rocking chair by the window, shelves already stocked with books and toys Sophia wouldn't be able to use for months. Someone had clearly spent a fortune making this room ready. Helen placed Sophia's car seat on a changing table and began expertly transferring the sleeping baby to the crib. Emma watched, feeling useless and out of place in what was supposed to be her daughter's room. Your suite is connected through here, Luca said, opening a door to reveal a bedroom that was easily 4 times the size of Emma's old place. King-sized bed, sitting area, another set of floor-to-ceiling windows. And through yet another door, Emma glimpsed a bathroom that looked like it belonged in a spa. This is too much, Emma whispered. It's what you deserve. Luca moved closer but didn't touch her. Emma, I know this feels overwhelming, but I need you safe and comfortable. Please, just try to settle in. Where's your room? Luca hesitated. Down the hall. I didn't want to assume. Good. Keep it that way. Emma's voice was sharper than she intended, but she needed boundaries. Needed some way to maintain control when everything else was spiraling. Luca nodded, accepting the rejection without argument. I'll let you rest. Helen will be nearby if you need anything. There's a call button by the bed, and I know how to take care of my baby, Luca. I know you do. Luca looked at Sophia sleeping peacefully in the expensive crib, then back at Emma. I just want to help. After he left, Emma sank onto the bed, exhaustion crashing over her. Helen appeared in the doorway between the rooms. Can I get you anything? Food? Tea? No, thank you. I need some time alone. Of course. I'll be in the sitting room at the end of the hall if you need me. Helen paused. Mrs. Carter? For what it's worth, Mr. Moretti's done nothing but talk about you and Sophia since he hired me. He really does care. Emma didn't respond. Caring wasn't the problem. Luca's methods were the problem. His world was the problem. The fact that she was trapped in this gilded cage was the problem. She must have dozed off, because the next thing she knew, Sophia was crying and the room was dim with evening light. Emma pushed herself up carefully, her incision protesting, and went to the nursery. She lifted Sophia from the crib, inhaling that newborn smell that was already becoming familiar. Hey, baby girl, you hungry? Emma settled into the rocking chair and got Sophia latched. The baby nursed eagerly, her tiny hand curled against Emma's chest. This at least felt right. Natural, like something Emma could control. A soft knock interrupted the moment. Come in, Emma called, assuming it was Helen, but it was Luca who entered, carrying a tray with food. I thought you might be hungry. You haven't eaten since breakfast. Emma's stomach growled in response, betraying her. You didn't have to bring it yourself. Don't you have staff for that? I wanted to. Luca set the tray on a side table. Soup, bread, fruit, nothing heavy. How is she? Eating like she's been starved. Emma couldn't help the small smile. She's got a good appetite. She's strong, like her mother. Luca settled into a chair near the window, keeping his distance but clearly not planning to leave. Did you get some rest? A little. Emma shifted Sophia to her other side. This place is huge. I got lost trying to find the kitchen earlier. There's a directory in your room, maps of the house, and the staff can help orient you. How many staff are there? Enough to keep things running. Luca was being deliberately vague. Security, household management, medical personnel, but they're discreet. You won't even know they're here most of the time. Emma wanted to argue about the excess, the waste, the sheer ridiculousness of needing an entire staff for one woman and a baby. But she was too tired. Sophia finished nursing and immediately spit up all over Emma's shirt. Emma sighed, grabbing a burp cloth, but Luca was already there with a warm washcloth. Here, let me take her while you clean up. Emma handed Sophia over, watching as Luca expertly positioned her against his shoulder and began patting her back. You've gotten good at that. YouTube videos. Luca's lips quirked. I've been studying. The image of Luca Moretti, crime boss, watching parenting videos on YouTube was so absurd that Emma almost laughed. Almost. What? Luca asked, catching her expression. Nothing. It's just weird, seeing you like this. Like what? Normal. Domestic. Emma pulled off the soiled shirt, grateful she was wearing a tank top underneath. It doesn't fit with the guy who orders hits from his phone. Luca's expression darkened. I'm both people, Emma. I can't separate them. Maybe you should try. I am trying. Luca's voice was low, intense. Do you think I want Sophia to grow up knowing what I've done? What I'm capable of? I'm trying to build something different, but I can't just flip a switch and make the past disappear. Before Emma could respond, Sophia burped spectacularly, then immediately started crying. Luca looked panicked. What's wrong? Is she okay? Emma took her daughter back, checking her diaper, feeling her forehead. She's fine. Probably just gas. Babies cry, Luca. It's what they do. But Sophia's cries escalated, becoming the kind of desperate wailing that made Emma's chest tighten with anxiety. She tried rocking, tried offering to nurse again, tried every technique the hospital nurses had taught her. Nothing worked. Something's wrong, Luca said, already moving toward the door. I'm getting Helen. Wait, she might just be overtired, or... But Luca was gone, returning seconds later with Helen and what looked like a portable medical kit. Helen took Sophia, checked her over with practiced efficiency, then smiled reassuringly. She's fine, just fussy. Completely normal for a newborn, especially one who's had the kind of day she's had. Helen handed Sophia back to Emma. Try skin-to-skin contact. Sometimes that helps. Emma pulled off her tank top, leaving just her nursing bra, and held Sophia against her bare chest. Almost immediately, the crying lessened. Sophia's breathing evened out, her tiny body relaxing. Magic, Helen said with a smile. I'll leave you to it. Call if you need anything. After she left, Emma became acutely aware that she was half naked in front of Luca. But he wasn't looking at her like that. He was looking at Sophia, at the way she'd calmed down with something like awe on his face. That's incredible, he said softly. It's biology. She knows my heartbeat, my smell. It's familiar. Emma adjusted the blanket around them both. You should go. I need to try to get her to sleep. Right, of course. Luca stood but hesitated at the door. Emma, thank you for letting me be here for this. It means more than you know. After he left, Emma sat in the rocking chair with Sophia pressed against her heart and let herself cry quietly. This wasn't how she'd imagined her first days of motherhood. She'd pictured her small apartment, struggling through on her own but free. Instead, she was in a mansion surrounded by guards, dependent on a man she didn't trust, trapped in a life she'd spent 8 months running from. But Sophia was safe. That was what mattered. Everything else, Emma would figure out later. The next few days fell into an uneasy rhythm. Emma focused on Sophia, feeding every 2 hours, changing diapers, learning her daughter's different cries and what they meant. Helen was there to help, but respected Emma's need to do most of it herself. The household staff appeared and disappeared like ghosts, keeping everything running but staying invisible. And Luca was everywhere and nowhere. He'd spend hours in his office handling business, emerging only for meals or to check on Sophia. But Emma would catch him standing in the nursery doorway at odd hours, just watching their daughter sleep. Or find him in the kitchen at 3 a.m. when Emma came down to heat a bottle, making tea with dark circles under his eyes that suggested he wasn't sleeping much either. They were living in the same house but carefully orbiting each other, maintaining distance except where Sophia was concerned. It couldn't last. Emma was in the living room one afternoon, Sophia asleep in a bassinet beside her, when she heard raised voices from Luca's office. She couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. Anger. Threat. The office door slammed open and Marco emerged, looking grim. He nodded at Emma as he passed, then left through the front entrance. Moments later, Luca appeared, his expression dark. "Is everything okay?" Emma asked, even though clearly it wasn't. "Fine." Luca's voice was clipped. "Just business." "What kind of business?" "Nothing you need to worry about." Emma's hands tightened on the blanket she'd been folding. "Don't do that. Don't shut me out and pretend everything's fine when it's obviously not." Luca ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. "Victor's escalating. He made a move against one of my warehouses last night. No one was hurt, but he's sending a message." "What kind of message?" "That he thinks I'm weak right now, distracted, that this is his chance to take what's mine." Emma's stomach dropped. "And what are you going to do about it?" "What I have to." Luca's voice was cold. "I'm meeting with him tomorrow. Neutral ground, both of us with limited security. We're going to settle this." "You mean kill him?" "I mean end the threat." Luca moved closer. "Emma, this is what I've been trying to tell you. I can't just ignore this. If I do nothing, if I show weakness, others will follow Victor's lead, and then you and Sophia will never be safe." "So you're going to go get yourself killed instead?" Emma's voice rose. "Great plan, Luca. Really thought that through." "I'm not going to get killed." "You don't know that. You said yourself this guy is dangerous. What if it's a trap? What if—" Emma stopped, hating that her voice was shaking. "What if you don't come back?" Luca's expression softened. He closed the distance between them, reaching out to cup her face. "I'm coming back. I promise. Don't make promises you can't keep." "I'm keeping this one." Luca's thumb brushed across her cheekbone. "Emma, I have a daughter now. I have you. I'm not taking unnecessary risks, but I can't hide forever either." Emma wanted to argue, wanted to beg him not to go, but what right did she have? They weren't together. She'd made it clear she wanted nothing from him except protection for Sophia. She couldn't demand he stay safe for her sake when she'd been pushing him away since the moment she'd signed those divorce papers. Except the papers were never finalized. The thought hit her suddenly. In all the chaos, neither of them had finished signing. They were still legally married. "When?" Emma asked quietly. "Tomorrow afternoon, 2 o'clock. "And you're just telling me now?" "I was going to tell you tonight." Luca's hands dropped. "I didn't want you worrying all day." "Well, now I'm going to worry all night instead. Thanks for that." Luca smiled slightly. "You're worried about me." "I'm worried about Sophia growing up without a father." "Liar." But Luca's voice was gentle, almost teasing. "You care, admit it." "I care about not being a single mother and hiding for the rest of my life," Emma shot back. But they both heard the lie. Sophia began to fuss then, her small noises escalating. Emma turned away from Luca, grateful for the distraction, and lifted their daughter from the bassinet. "She's hungry again. I need to feed her." "Emma, go handle your business, Luca. That's what you're good at, right?" She didn't wait for his response, just carried Sophia upstairs to the nursery and closed the door firmly behind her. Then she sat in the rocking chair and cried while Sophia nursed, terrified of what tomorrow might bring. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She tried, laid in the massive bed and closed her eyes and willed herself to rest. But every time she started to drift off, she'd imagine Luca not coming home. Imagine men in suits showing up to tell her there'd been an incident. Imagine raising Sophia alone, always looking over her shoulder, never knowing if Victor or someone else might come for them. Around midnight, she gave up and went to check on Sophia. The baby was sleeping peacefully, her chest rising and falling in the steady rhythm Emma had become obsessed with monitoring. She's beautiful when she sleeps. Emma startled, spinning to find Luca standing in the doorway to his room. She'd forgotten their bedroom shared the nursery. "You scared me," Emma whispered. "Sorry." Luca moved closer, his eyes on Sophia. "Couldn't sleep either?" "No." They stood in silence, watching their daughter sleep. Finally, Luca spoke. "I'm terrified." "You know? Of tomorrow." Emma looked at him in surprise. She'd never heard Luca admit fear before. "I'm terrified I'll mess this up," he continued. "That I'll miscalculate, or Victor will be smarter than I expect, or—" He stopped, his jaw clenching. "I keep thinking about Sophia, about everything she'll miss if something happens to me. First words, first steps, first day of school. Everything." "Then don't go," Emma said desperately. "Just don't go. We'll find another way." "There is no other way." Luca turned to her. "Emma, if I don't handle this now, it'll never stop. There will always be another Victor, another threat. I need to make an example. Show that coming after my family is a death sentence. By risking your own life, by protecting yours." Luca reached out, hesitated, then let his hand drop. "I know you don't want to hear this, but I love you. I love Sophia, and I will do whatever it takes to keep you both safe, even if that means putting myself in danger." Emma felt tears burning. "That's not fair. You can't say things like that and then walk into danger." "Why not?" "Because it makes me care." The words burst out before Emma could stop them. "It makes me care what happens to you, and I can't do that again, Luca. I can't let myself care and then watch you destroy yourself with this life." Luca stared at her, something raw and desperate in his expression. "Then help me. Help me find a way out. Because Emma, I swear I want out. I want a normal life with you and Sophia, but I don't know how to get there from here. You start by not getting yourself killed tomorrow." "Deal." Luca's lips quirked slightly. "I'll do my best not to die." "That good enough?" "No, but it's all I'm going to get, isn't it?" "Yeah." They stood there in the dimly lit nursery, the space between them charged with everything they weren't saying. Emma wanted to close that distance, wanted to let herself lean on him the way she had in the hospital, but she was so afraid of getting hurt again. Luca must have seen something in her face because he took a small step forward. "Emma, can I just hold you? Just for a minute? I need—" His voice cracked. "I need to remember what this feels like, in case tomorrow goes wrong." Emma should have said no, should have maintained the boundaries she'd worked so hard to establish. But she was so tired of being strong and so scared of losing him despite everything, and so she nodded. Luca pulled her into his arms carefully, like she might break. Emma let herself melt against his chest, breathing in his familiar scent, feeling his heartbeat steady beneath her cheek. His hand came up to cradle her head, and she felt him press a kiss to her hair. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "for everything, for being what I am, for putting you in this position, for—" "Stop." Emma pulled back enough to look at him. "Just stop apologizing and start surviving. Come back tomorrow. That's all I need from you." "I'll come back." Luca's voice was fierce. "I swear it." They stood there wrapped in each other until Sophia stirred and began to fuss. Emma pulled away reluctantly, going to the crib. "Go get some sleep," she told Luca softly. "You need to be sharp tomorrow." "Yeah." But Luca didn't move immediately. "Emma, thank you for tonight, for—" He gestured vaguely. "All of it." After he left, Emma changed Sophia and fed her, then sat in the rocking chair watching the sun come up through the windows. Somewhere in the house, Luca was preparing for a confrontation that could end in death, and Emma was powerless to stop it. All she could do was wait, and pray that he kept his promise to come home. The morning dragged on with excruciating slowness. Emma fed Sophia, changed her, tried to distract herself with the mundane tasks of caring for a newborn. But her eyes kept drifting to the clock. 1 o'clock, 1:15, 1:30. Luca appeared in the nursery doorway at 1:45, dressed in a dark suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. He looked calm, composed, every inch the powerful man who commanded respect and fear. But Emma saw the tension in his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes. "I'm leaving now," he said quietly. Emma stood, Sophia asleep against her shoulder. "You're really doing this." "I have to." Luca moved closer, his eyes on their daughter. Can I hold her? Just for a minute before I go." Emma transferred Sophia carefully, watching as Luca cradled her with practiced gentleness now. He pressed a kiss to her forehead, his eyes closing briefly. "I love you, baby girl," he whispered. "Your daddy's going to make sure you're safe, I promise." Emma's throat tightened. This felt too much like goodbye. Luca handed Sophia back, then surprised Emma by pulling her into a one-armed embrace, careful not to crush the baby between them. His lips brushed her temple. "I'm coming back," he said against her hair. "Wait for me." Then he was gone, footsteps echoing down the hallway, and Emma was left standing in the nursery with her heart pounding and her daughter sleeping peacefully, oblivious to the fact that her father might be walking to his death. Emma tried to keep busy. She fed Sophia again at 2:30. Changed her. Walked endless circles around the nursery while the baby dozed. Helen offered to take over, to let Emma rest, but Emma couldn't sit still. Movement was the only thing keeping her from falling apart. 3 o'clock came and went, then 4. Emma's imagination ran wild with possibilities. What if Luca was already dead? What if Victor had ambushed him? What if right now, somewhere in the city, Luca was bleeding out while his security tried frantically to save him? At 4:30, Emma's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Her hands shook as she opened it. "Your husband is dead. You're next." Emma's legs gave out. She sank to the floor, clutching Sophia tightly, staring at the message. No, this couldn't be happening. Luca had promised. He'd promised to come back. "Mrs. Carter?" Helen appeared in the doorway. "Are you all right? I heard... Oh my goodness, let me help you up." "Call security," Emma managed, showing Helen the phone. "Someone, they said..." Helen's face went pale. She immediately pressed the panic button on her own phone, and within seconds, the house erupted into controlled chaos. Security guards flooded the hallway, weapons drawn. Someone was shouting orders. Emma heard the word lockdown and felt the world tilt sideways. "Where's Mr. Moretti?" one of the guards demanded. "The meeting," Helen said. "He went to meet with Victor Kozlov at 2 o'clock. He should have been back by now." The guard spoke rapidly into his radio, then turned to Emma. "Ma'am, we need to move you and the baby to the safe room, now." "No." Emma struggled to her feet, still clutching Sophia. "No, I need to know what happened to Luca. I need..." "Ma'am, please. Until we can verify the situation, we need to secure you." They were already ushering her down the hallway, through a door Emma hadn't noticed before, downstairs into what looked like a bunker. Concrete walls, reinforced door, supplies stacked neatly along one wall. A safe room. Luca had built a damn safe room into his mansion. Helen came with them, bringing bottles and diapers and everything they might need. The door sealed shut with a heavy metallic clang that made Emma's ears ring. "How long do we stay down here?" Emma asked, her voice shaking. "Until we get the all clear," the guard said. He positioned himself by the door, weapon ready, face grim. Emma sank onto a cot against the wall, trying to soothe Sophia, who'd started crying from all the commotion. Her mind raced. If Luca was really dead, what would happen to them? Would his enemies come for her and Sophia? Would they spend the rest of their lives running, hiding, always looking over their shoulders? 20 minutes passed, then 30. Emma's phone buzzed again and she nearly dropped it in her haste to check. Marco's name flashed on the screen. She answered immediately. "Is he alive?" Emma demanded. "Marco, please, just tell me, is Luca alive?" "He's alive." Marco's voice was tight. "But Mrs. Moretti, the situation is complicated. Victor didn't come alone. He brought reinforcements, broke the agreement. There was a confrontation. Shots were fired. Emma's vision tunneled. Is Luca hurt? He's... Marco hesitated. He took a bullet, shoulder. He's conscious, talking, already demanding to see you. But Mrs. Moretti, Victor's dead. Luca killed him. And now we have a bigger problem. What problem? Victor's organization won't let this go. They're calling for retaliation. We're getting reports of movements against our interests across the city. This is going to escalate into a war unless we can contain it. Emma pressed her hand over her mouth, fighting back nausea. Where is Luca now? We're bringing him to the estate. Should be there in 15 minutes. He refused to go to a hospital. Of course he did. Emma's voice was hollow. Because he's an idiot who thinks he's invincible. He's asking for you. Keep saying your name, actually. I think... Marco paused. I think seeing you might help. He's pretty shaken up. Luca Moretti, shaken up. The image didn't fit with the cold, controlled man Emma knew. But then, she'd seen cracks in that armor before. In the hospital when Sophia was born, last night in the nursery. I'm in the safe room, Emma said. Security locked us down after I got a threatening text. Marco swore viciously. That was Victor's people trying to rattle you. We're handling it. I'll have security bring you up when we arrive. Mrs. Moretti, Emma, he's going to be okay. The wound isn't life-threatening. After Marco hung up, Emma sat in the concrete bunker and tried to process everything. Luca had killed Victor, had taken a bullet, was coming home hurt, and there was now a war brewing because of it. This was the life she'd run from. This violence, this constant danger, this world where death was always one confrontation away. And now she was trapped in it, not just for herself, but for Sophia too. The guard's radio crackled. Mr. Moretti's vehicle just passed through the gate, bringing Mrs. Carter up now. They escorted Emma and Sophia back upstairs through the house to the main entrance. She heard the SUV before she saw it, tires screeching on the driveway. Then the doors were opening and Marco was helping Luca out, and Emma's breath caught. Luca's shirt was soaked with blood on the left side, his face pale, his jaw clenched in obvious pain. But his eyes found Emma immediately, and something in his expression cracked open. Emma, he breathed. She was moving before she realized it, Sophia still in her arms, closing the distance between them. You idiot, you absolute idiot. I know. Luca swayed slightly and Marco steadied him. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Get him inside, Emma ordered, her nurse training kicking in despite her fear. Helen, I need medical supplies. Clean towels, antiseptic, bandages, now. They half-carried Luca to the living room, easing him onto the couch. Emma thrust Sophia at Helen and immediately went to work on Luca's shirt, pulling it away from the wound. The bullet had gone through his shoulder, messy, but not immediately life-threatening if they could stop the bleeding and prevent infection. You need a hospital, Emma said, examining the entry and exit wounds. No hospitals, too exposed. Luca's hand caught hers. Please, you can do this. I know you can. Emma wanted to argue, but she saw the fear in his eyes. Not fear of the wound, but fear of being separated from her and Sophia. Fear of being vulnerable in a hospital where Victor's people might find him. Fine. But if you start showing signs of infection, I'm calling an ambulance and you're not going to stop me. Deal. Helen returned with supplies and Emma set to work. She'd done clinical rotations in the ER during nursing school, had seen gunshot wounds before. This one was clean, through and through, no major arteries hit, no bone fragments she could see. Lucky. Luca hissed in pain as Emma cleaned the wound, his knuckles white where he gripped the couch. Talk to me, Emma said, trying to distract him. What happened? Victor brought 10 men. I brought 3. Luca's voice was strained. He said he wanted to negotiate, then pulled a gun. Told me he was going to kill you and Sophia after he killed me. Going to make it slow. Emma's hands stilled. What? He described it, in detail. Luca's eyes were dark, haunted. What he'd do to you, how he'd hurt Sophia. He wanted me to know, wanted me to die knowing I couldn't protect you. So you killed him. So I killed him. No regret in Luca's voice. Shot him twice. Center mass. He was dead before he hit the ground. Emma resumed cleaning the wound, her own hands shaking now. And the others? Marco handled most of them. My other men got the rest. But two of Victor's people got away. They're the ones who sent you that text. Marco said this is going to start a war. It already has. Luca winced as Emma began wrapping the bandage. Victor's second-in-command, Dmitri, is calling for my head. Says I broke protocol, killed Victor in cold blood. He's rallying support from other organizations. Did you break protocol? Victor drew first, but that won't matter to Dmitri. He sees this as an opportunity to take power, and eliminating me is step one. Emma finished the bandaging and sat back, her hands covered in Luca's blood. So what now? Now I end this before it spreads. Luca tried to sit up and immediately gasped in pain. Emma pushed him back down. You're not ending anything right now. You just got shot. You need rest. Emma, I can't. Yes, you can. Marco can handle things for 24 hours while you recover. Right, Marco? Marco, standing in the doorway, nodded immediately. Already on it, boss. I've got calls into our allies, making sure they know Victor drew first. And I'm increasing security here and at all our properties. See? Emma wiped her hands on a towel. It's handled. Now you're going to rest. Luca looked like he wanted to argue, but exhaustion and pain were clearly winning. Will you stay? Just for a while? Emma glanced at Helen, who was rocking Sophia gently. The baby had fallen asleep through all the chaos, somehow. I'll stay. Marco and the other security personnel cleared out, leaving Emma and Luca alone in the living room. She pulled a chair close to the couch, keeping one eye on Sophia in Helen's arms across the room. I thought you were dead, Emma said quietly. When I got that text, I thought... Her voice broke. I'm sorry, I should have had Marco contact you immediately, let you know I was okay. You should have not gotten shot in the first place. Yeah, well, that wasn't part of the plan. Luca managed a weak smile. But Emma, you need to know what Victor said, what he threatened. I can't let that stand. Dmitri and anyone else who sides with him needs to understand that threatening my family is a line you don't cross. By killing more people. By making an example that ends this permanently. Luca's voice was firm, despite his weakness. I know you hate it. I know you wish I could handle this some other way. But Emma, there is no other way. Not in this world. Emma looked at him, pale, bloody, in pain but still thinking about violence, still planning his next move. This was who Luca was. A man who'd kill to protect what was his. A man who saw the world in terms of power and threats and necessary evils. But he was also the man who'd held Sophia with infinite gentleness, who'd brought Emma food in the hospital, who'd stood in the nursery at midnight, terrified of dying before he could see his daughter grow up. I don't know how to reconcile these two versions of you, Emma admitted. The killer and the father. The crime boss and the man who watches YouTube videos about burping techniques. I'm both. I'll always be both. Luca reached for her hand. But Emma, I swear I'm trying to be less of one and more of the other. Every day, I'm trying. Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, you just escalated a conflict that's going to get more people killed. I protected us. That's different. Is it? Luca was quiet for a long moment. Victor would have kept coming. You know that, right? He would have found a way to hurt you, to hurt Sophia. The only way to stop him was to eliminate him. And now the only way to prevent others from following his example is to show strength, to make it clear what happens when someone threatens the people I love. By becoming the monster everyone already thinks you are, if that's what it takes. Luca's grip on her hand tightened. Emma, I would become the worst monster imaginable if it meant keeping you and Sophia safe. I would burn the entire world down and not lose a minute of sleep over it. Emma pulled her hand away, standing abruptly. That's what scares me, Luca. Not that you're capable of violence, but that you don't even hesitate. That you can talk about burning the world down like it's nothing. It is nothing compared to you. Stop saying things like that. Emma's voice rose, and Sophia stirred in Helen's arms. She lowered her voice, fighting for control. Stop making this about love when it's really about control. About power. about your need to dominate everything around you. That's not fair, isn't it? Emma crossed her arms. You built an empire on fear, Luca. You surround yourself with violence, and now you want me to believe you can just walk away from that? That you can change who you fundamentally are? I'm trying to. Trying isn't good enough. Emma felt tears burning. Sofia deserves a father who doesn't come home covered in blood, who doesn't have enemies trying to kill his family, who doesn't— She stopped, her voice breaking. Who doesn't make me fall asleep every night terrified he won't wake up the next morning? Luca stared at her, something raw and desperate in his expression. What do you want me to do? Tell me. I'll do anything. I want you to actually leave this life, not talk about it, not plan for it someday. Actually do it. Walk away. I can't, not yet. Not while there are still threats. There will always be threats. Emma's voice cracked. Don't you see that? You can't kill your way to safety, Luca. Every person you eliminate just creates more enemies, more people who want revenge, more danger for Sofia. Then what's the alternative? Let them come. Let them hurt you. Find a different way. Use your money, your connections, your resources to protect us without more killing. Negotiate. Pay people off. I don't know. Use your damn brain instead of your gun. Luca struggled to sit up, pain flashing across his face. Emma, this world doesn't work like that. These aren't rational people who can be reasoned with. They're predators. And the only thing predators understand is force. Then maybe it's time to leave their world behind completely. Tonight. Not in a few months when you've handled things. Now. I can't just— Why not? You have enough money to disappear. To go somewhere they'd never find us. Change our identities. Start over completely. Running doesn't solve anything. I've seen people try. They always get found. Because they didn't have your resources. Emma moved closer, desperate to make him understand. Luca, you could do this. You could actually get us out. But you won't because you're too attached to your empire, to your power, to being Luca Moretti. That's not true. Then prove it. Walk away. Tonight. Leave Marco in charge. Take your money and disappear with us. Luca looked at her for a long moment, conflict written across his face. Emma held her breath, hoping against hope that he'd say yes, that he'd choose them over everything else. I can't, he said finally. Not like this. Not in the middle of a war with loose ends everywhere. Emma, if I run now, we'll be hunted forever. I need to secure things first, make sure the transition is clean, that no one has reason to come after us. Emma felt something inside her break. You're never going to do it. You're never actually going to leave. I am. I swear I am. Just give me time. How much time? A month? A year? 5 years? Emma's voice was hollow. Because that's how long it'll take for there to always be one more threat to handle, one more loose end to tie up. And meanwhile, Sofia grows up in this world, surrounded by guards and safe rooms, and the constant fear that someone might use her to get to you. I won't let that happen. You can't control everything, Luca. You just got shot because you thought you could control a situation and you were wrong. What happens next time? What happens when you miscalculate again and it costs you your life? Or worse, what happens when someone gets past your security and gets to Sofia? Luca's face went pale. That will never happen. You don't know that. They stared at each other, the gulf between them feeling impossibly wide. Emma wanted to bridge it, wanted to find some middle ground where they could both exist. But she didn't know how to reconcile her need for safety with Luca's need for control, her desire for a normal life with his attachment to power. Sofia began to cry then, her small wails breaking the tension. Emma went to Helen and took her daughter, cradling her close. I need to feed her, Emma said quietly, and you need to rest. We'll talk more later. Emma, please. Later, Luca. She carried Sofia upstairs, her heart heavy. In the nursery, she settled into the rocking chair and let Sofia nurse while tears streamed silently down her face. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. She was supposed to raise her daughter in peace, in safety, far from violence and danger. Instead, she was trapped in a mansion with armed guards while Luca's enemies circled, planning their revenge. And Luca himself was downstairs, wounded and stubborn, unwilling to make the hard choice that would actually save them. Helen knocked softly on the doorframe. "Mrs. Carter, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Marco is asking to speak with you." Emma wiped her eyes quickly. "Send him up." Marco appeared a moment later, his expression grim. "Mrs. Moretti, sorry, Mrs. Carter. We need to discuss security protocols. Dimitri's made threats, specific ones, against you and the baby." Emma's blood ran cold. "What kind of threats?" "The kind I'm not going to repeat in front of you." Marco's jaw was tight. "But I need you to understand the severity. This isn't posturing. Dimitri means it, and he has the resources to act on it." "What do you recommend?" "Honestly, get as far from here as possible. Luca won't hear it, but you should take Sophia and disappear. I can arrange transport, new identities, enough money to live comfortably for years. Just get out while you still can." Emma stared at him. "You're telling me to leave your boss?" "I'm telling you to save yourself and that baby." Marco's voice was low, urgent. "Look, I've been with Luca for 15 years. I've seen him build this empire, seen him make impossible decisions, seen him survive things that should have killed him. But this is different. He's compromised, emotional, and that makes him sloppy, makes him vulnerable. He loves us. That's not a weakness. In this world, it's the biggest weakness there is." Marco moved closer. "Mrs. Carter, Luca's good at what he does, but he's not invincible. And right now, caring about you and Sophia is going to get him killed, maybe get all of you killed. So your solution is for me to run away. My solution is for you to survive. Let Luca handle Dimitri without worrying about you. Let him do what he does best without the distraction. And once it's over, once he's secured everything, then you can decide if you want back in his life." Emma looked down at Sophia sleeping peacefully in her arms. "He'd never forgive me." "He'd forgive you if you're alive to ask for it." "No." Emma's voice was firm despite her fear. "I'm not running again. I did that once and look where it got us. Sophia deserves to know her father, and Luca deserves a chance to prove he can change." Marco studied her for a long moment. "You love him. Even after everything, you love him." Emma wanted to deny it, but the words stuck in her throat, because it was true. Somewhere between the hospital and the safe house and tonight's terror, she'd fallen back in love with Luca Moretti. Or maybe she'd never stopped loving him. Maybe that was why she'd run, because loving him hurt too much. "Doesn't matter what I feel," Emma said finally. "What matters is keeping Sophia safe." "Then let me do my job. Let me increase security, limit your movements, make it impossible for anyone to get near you. Turn this into a real prison, you mean? Turn this into a fortress." Marco's expression was unyielding. "Mrs. Carter, I can't protect you if you won't let me. And right now, you're the most valuable target in the city. Every enemy Luca has ever made will be looking for a way to use you against him." Emma felt the weight of that truth settling over her. She'd known intellectually that being with Luca meant danger. But hearing it stated so bluntly, understanding just how many people wanted to hurt her, wanted to hurt Sophia, it made everything real in a way it hadn't been before. "Do what you need to do," Emma said quietly. "Just don't make it so I can't breathe. I need some freedom, some normalcy. For Sophia, if not for me." Marco nodded. "I'll do my best. But Mrs. Carter, the next few weeks are going to be rough. Dimitri won't back down easily. And Luca," he paused, "Luca's going to do things that might be hard for you to watch, hard to accept. Just remember he's doing it for you." After Marco left, Emma sat in the rocking chair and tried to imagine what the next few weeks would bring. More violence, certainly. More death. Luca becoming more and more the monster he claimed he didn't want to be, all in the name of protecting his family. And Emma, trapped in this gilded cage, watching it all unfold and powerless to stop it. The next 2 weeks felt like living inside a pressure cooker. Emma watched Luca heal from his gunshot wound with stubborn determination, refusing to slow down despite the pain. He worked from the living room when he couldn't make it to his office, phone constantly pressed to his ear, Marco coming and going with updates that always seemed to make Luca's expression darker. Dimitri was making moves. Systematic, calculated attacks on Luca's businesses. Nothing violent yet, but the message was clear. This was just the beginning. Emma tried to focus on Sophia, on the tiny miracle of her daughter's existence. Sophia was thriving now, gaining weight, her eyes starting to focus and track movement. Sometimes Emma would catch Luca just staring at her, this look of wonder on his face like he couldn't quite believe she was real. Those were the moments that made Emma's heart ache, because she could see the man Luca could be, the father, the partner, the person who wasn't drowning in blood and violence. But then his phone would ring, and that man would disappear, replaced by the cold strategist planning his next move. It was nearly midnight when everything changed. Emma was in the nursery, rocking Sophia back to sleep after a feeding, when she heard raised voices downstairs. Not angry, urgent. Something was happening. She laid Sophia in the crib and crept to the top of the stairs. Below, she could see Luca and Marco in the entryway, surrounded by security guards. Luca was fully dressed despite the late hour, his injured arm still in a sling. "I don't care what he wants, Skin," Luca was saying. "The answer is no." "Boss, you need to hear him out." Marco's voice was strained. This could end everything. No more bloodshed, no more threats, just done. "At what price?" "You need to ask him yourself." Luca looked like he wanted to argue, but then his eyes lifted and found Emma on the stairs. His expression shifted, softened slightly. "Emma, did we wake you?" "What's going on?" Luca exchanged a glance with Marco, then sighed. "Dmitri wants to meet. Tonight. Says he has a proposal." Emma's stomach dropped. "It's a trap." Maybe not." Luca moved toward the stairs. "But I have to find out." "No, you don't." Emma came down to meet him. "You can tell him to go to hell and handle this some other way." "What other way?" Luca's voice was tired. "Emma, we've been doing this for 2 weeks. Hit for hit, move for move. Neither of us is winning, but both of us are losing resources, money, people. At this rate, we'll destroy each other and leave a power vacuum that'll tear the entire city apart. So let it tear apart. We'll be gone." "It doesn't work like that." Luca cupped her face with his good hand. "If I leave without resolving this, without establishing some kind of peace, they'll hunt us forever. But if Dimitri's serious about ending this, if there's a way to walk away clean, I have to try." Emma wanted to scream. She wanted to grab Sophia and run and never look back, but she could see the exhaustion in Luca's eyes, the weight of carrying this impossible situation. "Where's the meeting?" "An old warehouse district, neutral ground." "How very cliché." Emma's voice was bitter. "And how many men is he bringing to this peace talk?" "The message said he'd come alone." "You can't possibly believe that." "No, which is why I'm bringing Marco and a full security team." Luca's thumb brushed across her cheekbone. "I'll be careful. I promise." "Your promises don't mean much when you keep putting yourself in danger." "I know." Luca leaned his forehead against hers. "I know, and I'm sorry, but Emma, this might be our way out. If I can negotiate something with Dmitri, get him to back off, we could actually leave. Start over somewhere safe." Emma closed her eyes, breathing in his scent, trying to memorize this moment in case it was the last. "You better come back. Sophia needs her father." "What about you?" Luca's voice was soft. "Do you need me?" Emma pulled back to look at him. "That's not a fair question." "It's the only question that matters." They stood there in the entryway, security guards pretending not to watch, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between them. "Yes," Emma whispered. "I need you. Even though I shouldn't, even though loving you terrifies me, I need you." Something broke in Luca's expression. He kissed her then, hard and desperate, like he was trying to memorize the taste of her. Emma kissed him back, pouring 2 weeks of fear and frustration and reluctant love into it. When they broke apart, Luca rested his forehead against hers again. "I love you. I've loved you since that charity gala, and I'll love you until the day I die, and I swear, Emma, I swear I'm going to fix this. I'm going to give you the life you deserve." Then he was gone, Marco and the security team following him out to the waiting vehicles. Emma stood in the doorway and watched the taillights disappear down the driveway, her heart in her throat. Helen appeared beside her. "He'll be all right. Mr. Moretti always comes back. Until the day he doesn't, Emma said quietly. She went back upstairs to the nursery, unable to sleep but too anxious to do anything productive. She paced, checked on Sophia obsessively, stared at her phone, willing it to ring with news. An hour passed. Then 2. Emma's imagination ran wild with scenarios, each worse than the last. Luca walking into an ambush, Dmitri shooting him on sight, a bomb in the warehouse, a sniper in the shadows. At 3 a.m, her phone finally rang. Marco's name flashed on the screen. Is he alive? Emma answered without preamble. He's alive, and Emma, you need to hear this. We're coming back now, but there's been a development. What kind of development? The kind that changes everything. They arrived 45 minutes later. Emma met them in the living room, her heart pounding. Luca walked in looking shell-shocked, like someone had knocked the world out from under him. What happened? Emma demanded. Luca sank onto the couch, running his hand through his hair. Dmitri didn't want revenge. He wanted out. Emma blinked. What? He's been trying to leave Victor's organization for years. Victor kept him locked in through fear, through threats against his family. When I killed Victor, Dmitri saw an opportunity, but he needed leverage to make sure no one came after him when he walked away. Leverage like you. Like a truce with me, publicly acknowledged. Luca looked up at Emma. He proposed a deal. He gives me everything. Victor's entire operation, all the intel on his network, everyone who was planning to move against us. And in return, I publicly support his retirement. Make it clear that anyone who touches him or his family answers to me. Emma tried to process this. So he's just giving you an entire criminal empire? He's giving me the keys to dismantle it. Luca's voice was quiet. Emma, with that information, I can clean house. Eliminate every threat, every enemy, everyone who might come after us. And then you can actually leave. And then I can actually leave. Luca stood, moving toward her. But there's more. Dmitri had an offer for me, for us. What kind of offer? He's been planning his exit for years, has a new identity ready, a place set up in New Zealand where no one from this world will ever find him. He offered to help us do the same. Said his people could make us disappear so completely that we'd effectively be dead to everyone from our old lives. Emma's pulse raced. You're serious? Completely. But Emma, Luca took her hands. This isn't something I can decide alone. If we do this, we leave everything behind. Our names, our history, all of it. We'd be starting completely over with nothing but each other and Sophia. And we'd be safe. As safe as it's possible to be. Luca's grip tightened. No more looking over our shoulders. No more threats. Just a normal life. The 3 of us. Emma stared at him, hardly daring to believe it. What about your empire? Marco takes it. He's been my second for 15 years, knows the operations inside and out. I'll transition everything to him over the next month, make sure it's clean. And then, Luca's voice roughened. Then I walk away. For good this time. No looking back. You'd really do it? Give up everything? I'd give up anything for you and Sophia. Luca pulled her closer. Emma, you were right. There's always going to be another threat, another enemy, another reason to stay, unless I make a clean break. And this is my chance. Our chance. Emma felt tears burning. What if it doesn't work? What if they find us anyway? Then we run again, and again, as many times as it takes. Luca cupped her face. But I'd rather spend my life running with you than one more day in this world without you. Emma closed her eyes, letting the possibility wash over her. A new life, new names, somewhere far from violence and fear and the constant shadow of death. It sounded too good to be true. What do we tell Sophia? Emma whispered. When she's older, when she asks about her family, her history, we tell her the truth, that her father made mistakes, did terrible things, but loved her enough to walk away from everything to keep her safe. Luca's voice was rough with emotion. And we make damn sure she never has to live the life we lived. Emma opened her eyes, searching Luca's face for any sign of doubt, any hesitation. But all she saw was determination and desperate hope. Okay, she said finally. Okay, let's do it. Let's disappear. Luca's expression crumbled with relief. He pulled Emma into his arms, careful of his injured shoulder, and held her like she was the only thing keeping him anchored to the earth. "Thank you," he breathed against her hair. "Thank you for giving me another chance. I won't waste it. I swear I won't waste it." The next month was a whirlwind of careful planning and controlled chaos. Luca worked with Dimitri's people, establishing new identities that were so thoroughly documented they'd pass any scrutiny. Emma Carter and Luca Moretti ceased to exist on paper. In their place emerged James and Emma Sullivan, a young couple from the Midwest relocating to New Zealand for James's new job in finance. Marco took over the legitimate businesses seamlessly. For the less legitimate operations, Luca systematically shut them down or transferred them to competitors who'd play by rules that kept violence to a minimum. It wasn't perfect. Nothing about that world could be perfect, but it was better than leaving a power vacuum that would tear the city apart. Sophia grew through it all, blissfully unaware of the monumental changes happening around her. She started smiling, these huge gummy grins that made Emma's heart melt. Luca spent every spare moment with her, like he was trying to memorize every expression, every sound. Emma watched him transform day by day. The hard edges softened. The calculated coldness thawed. He was becoming the man she'd always hoped he could be, present, attentive, focused on family instead of empire. They had one last dinner at the estate before they left. Marco joined them, along with Helen and a few key members of Luca's inner circle. It felt like a funeral for their old lives. "To new beginnings, Marco toasted, raising his glass, and to the boss finally getting his head on straight. "Took me long enough," Luca said with a slight smile. He had Sophia in his good arm, the sling finally off after weeks of healing. "Marco, you're sure you can handle everything?" "Boss, I've been handling everything while you've been playing house for the past month. I think I'll manage." But Marco's voice was warm, affectionate. "Just be happy. Both of you. That's all I ask." After dinner, Emma found herself alone with Marco on the terrace while Luca put Sophia to bed. "Thank you," Emma said quietly, "for convincing him to take Dimitri's offer, for helping make this possible." "Don't thank me. I'm losing the best friend I ever had." Marco's voice was rough. "But I'm gaining peace of mind knowing he's safe, that you and the baby are safe. That's worth it." "Will you be all right, running everything alone?" "I won't be alone. Luca's trained good people, and honestly," Marco smiled slightly, "I think I'll enjoy not having to clean up his messes anymore." Emma laughed, despite the tears threatening. "He does make a lot of messes. The biggest one being you." Marco's expression was serious now. "Emma, I know we didn't start off on the best terms. I know I told you to run, to leave him. But I want you to know, I'm glad you stayed. He needs you. Sophia needs you. And I think maybe you need him too." "I do." Emma wiped her eyes. "I really do. Even though he drives me crazy and scares me and makes the worst decisions sometimes, I love him. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure he never forgets he made the right choice walking away." They left 3 days later, before dawn, slipping away like ghosts. A private plane took them to Los Angeles, then another to Auckland. By the time anyone might think to look for them, James and Emma Sullivan would be settled in a small coastal town on the South Island, as anonymous as any other young family starting fresh. The house Dimitri's people had arranged was nothing like the mansion. It was small, practical, perched on a hill overlooking the ocean. 3 bedrooms, a kitchen that had seen better days, a garden that needed serious work. It was perfect. Emma stood on the porch that first morning, Sophia in her arms, watching the sun rise over the water. Luca came up behind them, wrapping his arms around them both. "What do you think?" he asked. "I think it's home." Emma leaned back against him. "Or it will be. No regrets?" Emma considered the question carefully. They'd left behind everything: wealth, power, the only lives they'd ever known. Luca had sacrificed an empire. Emma had given up any chance of reconnecting with her old life, her old friends. They were starting from nothing. "No regrets," she said firmly. "This is what Sophia deserves. What we all deserve." Luca pressed a kiss to her temple. "I'm going to spend every day making sure you never regret choosing me. I promise. Just be here. That's all I need. Be present, be safe, be the father Sophia needs, and the partner I need. The rest we'll figure out together. They stood there as the sun climbed higher, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Sophia cooed softly, reaching for the light with tiny fingers, and Emma felt something she hadn't felt in years: peace. The first weeks in New Zealand were an adjustment. Luca had to learn how to be James Sullivan, a mid-level finance worker with no power, no empire, no army of people jumping to obey his every command. Emma watched him struggle with it sometimes, saw the frustration when he couldn't just throw money at a problem or make things happen with a phone call. But she also saw him find joy in the small things. Grocery shopping together, Sophia strapped to his chest in a carrier. Learning to cook because they couldn't afford to eat out every night. Working in the garden, getting dirt under his nails, building something with his own hands for the first time in his life. "I'm terrible at this," Luca said one afternoon, surveying the disaster that was supposed to be a vegetable patch. "You're learning. That's what matters." Emma was trying not to laugh at the dirt smeared across his face. "Besides, Sophia thinks you're doing great." Sophia, sitting in her bouncer on the porch, gurgled happily in agreement. Luca wiped his forehead, leaving more dirt. "In my old life, I could have just hired someone to do this. In your old life, you'd be dodging assassination attempts instead of murdering innocent tomato plants." Emma moved closer, wiping the dirt from his cheek. "I know which one I prefer." Luca caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. "I love you. Have I mentioned that today?" "Only 3 times. You're slipping." "Let me make it 4. I love you, Emma Sullivan." He pulled her close, careful not to get dirt on her clothes. "Thank you for giving me this chance, for believing I could change. You're still changing. We both are." Emma rested her head against his chest. "But we're doing it together. That's what matters." They'd been in New Zealand for 3 months when Emma woke up one morning feeling nauseous. She tried to ignore it, blamed it on something she'd eaten. But when it continued for a week, she finally took a pregnancy test. Positive. Emma stared at the little plus sign, her emotions a tangled mess. They'd been careful, but apparently not careful enough. Another baby. Another life to protect and nurture and worry about. She found Luca in the living room playing with Sophia on a blanket on the floor. He looked up when Emma entered, and whatever he saw on her face made him go still. "What's wrong?" Emma handed him the test without a word. Luca looked at it, then back at Emma, then at the test again. "You're pregnant?" "Apparently." "That's..." Luca's expression cycled through shock, fear, and then pure joy. "That's incredible." "Emma, that's... another baby. We're having another baby." "Are we ready for this? We're still figuring out how to be parents to one baby in a new country with new identities, and we'll figure this out too." Luca stood, pulling Emma into his arms. Together, just like everything else. Emma let herself be held, let herself feel the fear and the joy and everything in between. "You're sure, because there's no going back from this. Another baby means we're really committed to this life. Really staying. I've never been more sure of anything." Luca pulled back to look at her. "Emma, this is our future. Right here. Not the empire I left behind. Not the life we ran from. This. Us. Our family. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world." Sophia chose that moment to start crying, demanding attention. Emma laughed through her tears, going to pick up their daughter. "I hope you're ready for twice the chaos." "Bring it on," Luca said, and Emma believed him. 7 months later, Emma gave birth to a son. They named him Daniel, and he came into the world screaming his lungs out, demanding to be heard. Luca cried when he held him for the first time, these big silent tears that he didn't bother wiping away. "2 kids?" he said wonderingly. "We have 2 kids." "We do." Emma was exhausted, sore, and happier than she had ever been. "Think you can handle it?" "Ask me in 18 years. But Emma already knew the answer. She'd watched Luca transform from a crime boss into a father, from a man who solved problems with violence into someone who spent hours rocking a colicky baby at 3 in the morning. He'd proven he could change, that he could be more than his past. They settled into a new rhythm as a family of 4. It was chaotic and messy, and nothing like the life of luxury they'd left behind. But it was real, authentic, built on love instead of fear, on trust instead of control. Emma started working part-time as a nurse at the local clinic once Daniel was old enough. Luca took a job doing financial consulting for small businesses, using his sharp mind for something legal for the first time in his life. They made friends in their community, went to barbecues and school events, lived the kind of normal life Emma had dreamed of. Sometimes, late at night, Emma would catch Luca staring out the window at the ocean, and she wondered if he missed it. The power, the respect, the empire he'd commanded. But when she asked, he always said the same thing. I don't miss who I was. I'm too busy being grateful for who I became. On Sophia's second birthday, they had a small party at the house. Just a few friends from the neighborhood, simple decorations, a homemade cake that Emma had definitely overbaked. Sophia smeared frosting everywhere while Daniel watched from his high chair, giggling at his sister's antics. Later, after everyone had left and the kids were in bed, Emma and Luca sat on the porch watching the stars. Do you ever think about Marco? Emma asked. About everyone we left behind? Sometimes. Luca's arm was around her shoulders. But I can't go back, even to check. That door is closed. Do you regret it? Luca turned to look at her, his expression serious in the moonlight. Emma, I've done a lot of things in my life I regret. I've hurt people, destroyed lives, made choices that haunt me. But walking away from that world, choosing you and our children over everything else, that's the one thing I'll never regret. Emma kissed him, soft and sweet, tasting like birthday cake and hope. I love you, James Sullivan. I love you too, Emma Sullivan. Luca smiled against her lips, though I still miss being called Luca sometimes. Only I get to call you that now, in private, our secret. I can live with that. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the ocean, feeling the cool night breeze. Inside, their children slept peacefully, safe and loved, and oblivious to the complicated journey that had brought them here. Years passed. Sophia started school, bright and curious, and completely unaware that her father had once been one of the most feared men in his city. Daniel followed 2 years later, rambunctious and full of energy, keeping Emma constantly on her toes. They were normal kids with normal problems, homework and friendship drama, and who got to pick what movie they watched. Emma watched Luca at a parent-teacher conference one evening, listening seriously as Sophia's teacher discussed her progress in math. This man, who'd once negotiated million-dollar deals and ordered hits with a phone call, was now concerned about his daughter's multiplication tables. The transformation was so complete it sometimes took Emma's breath away. I never thought I could have this, Luca said that night as they got ready for bed. A normal life, a family, peace. You earned it. Emma turned to face him. You made the hard choice, Luca. You gave up everything to protect us. That takes courage. I was terrified. Luca pulled her close. Still am sometimes. I wake up at night worried that it's all going to disappear, that someone will find us, or that I'll mess this up somehow. You won't. We won't. Emma kissed him gently. We're building something here, something real and lasting. And our kids, they're going to grow up knowing they're loved, knowing they're safe. That's what matters. On their 10th anniversary in New Zealand, Luca surprised Emma with a weekend away. Marco watched the kids. They'd finally broken down and cautiously reconnected a few years earlier, establishing a careful long-distance friendship with strict rules about what could and couldn't be discussed. Luca took Emma to a cabin in the mountains, just the two of them. They hiked and talked and made love like they were young and carefree. And on their last night, sitting by a fire under impossible stars, Luca pulled out a small box. I know we're already married, he said, but that was different, people, a different life. I want to marry you again, as James Sullivan, as the man I am now, not the man I was. Inside the box were simple gold bands, nothing flashy, nothing that screamed wealth or power, just 2 rings that looked like they belonged to people who'd chosen each other every day for years. Emma's eyes filled with tears. You want to get married again? I want to recommit to you, to our family, to this life we've built. Luca's voice was rough with emotion. Emma, you saved me. You gave me a reason to become better, and I want to promise you, officially, that I'll spend the rest of my life being worthy of that gift. You already are. Emma cupped his face, kissing him through her tears. Yes. 1,000 times yes. They got married in a small ceremony on the beach, just the two of them and a celebrant and the ocean as witness. Sophia and Daniel made flower crowns that morning, insisting their parents needed to look properly festive. Marco sent flowers with a card that just said, "Finally." It was simple and perfect and everything their first wedding hadn't been. No politics, no pretense, no performance for people who didn't really care. Just two people choosing each other, choosing this life, choosing to believe in second chances. As Emma stood barefoot in the sand, holding Luca's hands while they spoke their vows, she thought about the terrified pregnant woman who'd walked into Moretti Tower over a decade ago. That woman had thought signing divorce papers would free her. She'd been wrong. Freedom wasn't running away from Luca. It was running toward a life with him, a real life, built on honesty and sacrifice and the daily choice to be better. "I love you," she told him, meaning it with every fiber of her being. "I choose you, today and every day after." "I love you," Luca replied, tears streaming down his face. "Thank you for believing I could change, for giving me our family, for showing me what really matters." They sealed it with a kiss as the sun set over the Pacific, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. And Emma knew, with absolute certainty, that this was how their story was always meant to end, not with violence or fear or running away, but with love freely given and freely received. That night, after they'd returned home to find Sophia and Daniel covered in marker, and Marco looking frazzled but happy, Emma stood in the doorway of their bedroom watching her family. Luca was trying to negotiate bedtime with their children, completely failing to be authoritative because he couldn't stop laughing at Daniel's ridiculous demands. Sophia was helping by making the situation more chaotic. This was real power, Emma realized. Not empires or fear or control, but the power to love wholly, to protect fiercely, to build something good from the wreckage of a broken past. The power to choose differently, to be better, to break cycles that seemed unbreakable. Luca caught her eye over their children's heads and smiled, this beautiful, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. And Emma smiled back, grateful for every hard choice that had led them here, grateful for the man who'd loved her enough to burn his whole world down and build a new one in its ashes. Because freedom, Emma had learned, wasn't about being alone or independent or untouchable. True freedom was choosing to be vulnerable with someone who'd proven themselves worthy of that trust. It was building a life based on love rather than fear. It was watching your children grow up safe and happy, knowing they'd never have to carry the weight their parents had carried. True freedom was this. Right here. Right now. And Emma wouldn't trade it for anything.